Hello, I'm Executive Chef Matt Powers, and in this knife training video, we will be demonstrating certain knife skills. We'll be talking about knife safety and knife handling. The first thing that I would like to do is introduce you to different knives that you may see in some of our campus kitchens. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce to you a few knives that can be found in the campus kitchens. The most popular knife that you will see is probably the chef's knife. The chef's knife will be your basic utility knife and be used for most cuts in the kitchen. The chef's knife can range anywhere from 10 inches to 6 inches as demonstrated here. Please always choose a knife that you feel most comfortable using. The second knife that I like to introduce is the bread knife. The bread knife is used, as its name, to mostly slice bread. You can tell a bread knife by the serrated edge that it has. The next knife that I'd like to introduce is a paring knife. The paring knife is going to be used for mostly small cuts or different objects that you would work on. The last knife is the slicing knife. The slicing knife is going to be longer than 10 inches and extremely sharp and used mostly for slicing beefs, roasts, and other servable meats. Now that you have been introduced to some of the knives in the kitchen, let's talk about safe knife handling. When utilizing a knife in the kitchen, always use the correct knife for the correct job. Make sure that you're using the knife for its intended purpose. A knife should always be used with a cutting board. We do not use knives to open cans, break down boxes, or direct traffic. When carrying a knife from place to place in the kitchen, always carry the knife down and at your side, never in front of you or holding it out or swinging it back and forth. Straight down at your side, and make sure that people around you know that you're carrying a knife. You can do this by just saying sharp or just saying, "Hey, I have a knife." When you're handling your knife, if your knife happens to fall, never reach out and try and catch it. Let the knife fall on the floor. If the knife is damaged or broken in any way, give it to a manager and retrieve a new one. If the knife is not damaged, you may clean it appropriately and then return to work, but never try and grab a falling knife. Before we begin looking at some of the knife skills that we have, let's talk a little bit about utilizing the proper equipment. As I've said multiple times, please always choose the appropriate knife for the job that you're about to perform. We're also supposed to be using the appropriate cutting board. Red cutting boards should only be used for raw poultry, fish, or meat. Never use red cutting boards to cut fresh fruits or vegetables or any ready-to-eat products. White cutting boards are the cutting boards that you will be using to cut any ready-to-eat foods. These are foods that are going to be cut and then served right after you're done cutting them. Green cutting boards. Green cutting boards will be used when you have to cut any raw fruits or vegetables. Never mix and match your cutting boards and never share cutting boards. After using any one of these cutting boards, they need to be washed, rinsed, and sanitized before they should be used again. Now that we have reviewed the different knives that you can find in the kitchen and the safe practices when handling knives, let's begin our knife skills demonstration. The first thing that I want to do is make sure that my area is clean and free of any food debris. For that, I want to grab a sanitation bucket and wipe down the counters. I'll keep my sanitation bucket on hand just in case there's any mess that I need to clean up during the demonstration, as you should when you're utilizing cutting boards in the kitchen. The next thing that I want to do is know what I'm going to be preparing. In this case, I will be demonstrating different skills with fruits and vegetables. The fruits and vegetables are going to be raw, so I'll be needing a green cutting board, and I also will want to have a compost bin nearby for any scraps that I may have. I want to take a damp towel and place that in the area that I'm going to have my cutting board. I'll take my green cutting board for raw fruits and vegetables and place that on top of the damp towel. The damp towel is going to prevent the cutting board from slipping and sliding while I'm using it for my demonstration. Now that my area is clean and sanitized, clean of any food debris, and my cutting board is the correct color, I can wash my hands, put in a hairnet, and begin the demonstration. When preparing any food in the kitchen, it's important to remember whether or not the food is a ready-to-eat product or if it's going to be cooked. When utilizing the knives and the cutting board with a ready-to-eat product, you must wear gloves. For this demonstration and all the demonstrations that I'm going to be doing in this video, the food will not be ready to eat, so I will not be wearing gloves. But make sure you are clear with your supervisor or manager on the food that you're preparing, if it's ready to eat or not. There are also cut gloves available at each one of the kitchens on campus. You do not have to use a cut glove, but if you feel that you are more comfortable with it, please make sure you ask the manager for one. The first knife skill that I'm going to be demonstrating is how to properly dice an onion. For this knife skill, we are going to be utilizing a yellow onion. We're going to be slicing it in half, and then taking one of the halves and making vertical slits along the onion and coming back horizontally to create a 1/4 inch dice of onion. I will also show to you how by moving the vertical slits closer together and then making your horizontal cuts closer, you can change or alter the size of the dice that you get from the onion. Let's begin. The first thing I want to do is make a cut directly through the onion. So you can see the onion is cut completely in half now. I'll take one of those halves and I'll peel away the outer skin that is inedible. Next, I will trim off the top part of the onion. Now I'm going to be making slits through the onion, starting on one side and then moving all the way through. Now I want the slits to be about a 1/4 inch apart so that I can show you a 1/4 inch dice. So I don't want to start straight up and down. I kind of want to start on an angle. This way, because of the shape of the onion is rounded, I will get a more even dice. If I come straight up and down, my dice is not going to be that even. So starting an inch, 1/4 of an inch from the bottom, I'm going to start there, and I'm going to use my other hand as a guide. I don't want to put my fingers out because I might cut the tips of my fingers, but I kind of want to arc them in. Doing this, I can start making slits through the onion. While I'm doing this, I don't want to cut all the way through the onion. I want to stop right before so that the base of this holds the onion together. Now that I have all my vertical slits cut through, all the way through, but not through the back, I'm going to come back and cut horizontally. Once again, I want the cuts to be about a 1/4 of an inch, and that will produce for me a 1/4 of an inch diced onion. Once again, my hand is the guide, not putting my fingers out like that, but I'm curling them in and putting the knife right against the knuckle, which is going to guide the cut. When I get to the end, I don't want to waste any of the onion, so I'm going to make a few cuts, throw that away, and make sure that these are to a 1/4 of an inch. As you can see here, most of my onion is about a 1/4 of an inch when it comes apart. That way there's no excess chopping involved, and it's the quickest and most efficient way to dice an onion. The next knife skill that we will demonstrate is also using an onion, but this time we are going to julienne the onion. This is a little different in the way that we prepare the onion for the julienning process from dicing the onion. Once again, we'll start with a whole onion. We'll cut the onion at the top and bottom, peel it, cut it in half, and then cut the onion completely through across the grain. Doing this, and once again alternating how wide our cuts are, is going to give you a different cut of julienne each time. But for this demonstration purpose, we're going to be cutting it 1/8 of an inch across the grain, giving us 1/8 of an inch julienne cut. To start the process of julienning an onion, I'm going to cut the end and the top of the onion off. I will discard these into the compost. Next, I will slice completely through the onion, directly down the center. This way, it'll help me peel the onion quite quickly. These I will also compost. For the julienne cut, I will start with 1/2 of the onion, and I will, like my dice, start at an angle and cut all the way through the onion little by little. This is an 1/8 of a cut julienne, so I want to make 1/8 cuts all the way through. I will use my other hand to guide the knife once again, working from one side all the way to the other. Once again, rotating my knife while I work through the onion. Please work at a pace that is comfortable for you. Maybe you want to start slowly, making sure that your cuts are all exactly the same size. And as you feel more comfortable, you can continue to work a little faster. And what we have here is a julienne onion. This may be used for any types of stir frying or also for caramelized onions. Let's run through that one more time. I have 1/2 of an onion. I took the top and the bottom off. I cut it straight down the center and I peeled it. And this is what I am left with. I'm going to start from one side, work all the way through, cutting 1/8 of an inch slices. If you want to, you may stop halfway through, rotate the onion, and then begin once again. You may find this a little bit easier in julienning the onion. The last knife skill that I'm going to be demonstrating is how to properly clean and produce cubed fruit. The first fruit that I'm going to be showing you is how to break down a pineapple into large chunks. Doing this in a safe, quick manner is going to greatly improve your effectiveness in the kitchen. When fabricating a pineapple for use, I want to make sure that my pineapple has been completely washed on the outside using the ozone water provided at the residential dining campus kitchens. I also am going to be wearing gloves for this demonstration because the pineapple that I cut here is going to be used on the salad bar, so it is a ready-to-eat product. In fabricating this pineapple, the first thing that I'm going to do is remove the stem and cut off the base of the pineapple. This will provide me a working area in which I can start to peel the pineapple. So first, using my non-dominant hand, I will guide the knife to where I want to make my first cut. I will slice all the way through the pineapple. The top is inedible and we will compost that. I will clean off my cutting board. And then I will also make a cut through the bottom of the pineapple. I'm making sure that when I cut off the bottom of the pineapple, I'm not removing too much of the edible flesh. It's kind of a small cut, about 1/2 inch from the base. In fabricating the pineapple, the next step is I'm going to be peeling the pineapple. Within a pineapple, there is the edible part, which is located here, and there is also an inedible rind that runs down the center of the pineapple. So what I'm going to be doing is taking my knife, running it right behind the eyes through the entire length of the pineapple. I will be starting from one side, running it through the pineapple. As you can see, I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to start at this angle and then come through and finish at that angle. Because the pineapple is curved, I don't want to make a straight cut down. I will be losing a lot of edible flesh. So to begin, I find where one of these eyes begin, these dark pits, and I'm going to put my knife behind it. As I do that, I'm going to slice through and work my way down. Now I have my first cut. After I have my first cut, I can see kind of where the eyes meet the inedible outside of the fruit, and that's where I'm going to place my knife for the next cut. I'm just going to follow through right behind those eyes for each additional cut. Once again, starting at one angle, continuing to curve my knife through the cut and finishing down. So I started up and finished still curved. Once again, I find the eye of the pineapple, put my knife through it, and I want to make sure that I'm not taking off too much of the edible flesh. So little cuts, Each time I don't want to be trying to peel the entire pineapple in 3 or 4 cuts. This is going to take about 5 or 6 cuts to appropriately gather as much flesh from the pineapple as possible. Now that I have peeled all of the flesh away from the pineapple, I can go through the pineapple and see any spots that I have missed, and I can utilize the knife to take those off. So just very slowly coming through and cleaning up any of the spots that I have missed on the pineapple. Once I have done that, I will set the pineapple aside and I will clean my cutting board and remove all of the outer inedible skin into a compost bin. Now I'm ready to begin the next part of fabricating the pineapple. Once again, all of the skin on the outside is edible, the inside rind is not. To determine where I should cut the pineapple to get the most flesh and leave the inside inedible rind intact, what I do is I utilize my finger to push in the center. It's extremely hard. As I move outward, the flesh gets soft. As soon as I start feeling the soft flesh, that's going to be the point in which I place my knife. I'm going to slice all the way through the pineapple. And then I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees, come back, find the soft flesh, cut directly through the pineapple. I'm going to continue to do this until all 4 sides of the pineapple have been cut off. What I'm left with is the inedible rind on the inside. This I will discard into the compost. I am left with the edible part of the pineapple. From this I'm going to do a large dice of the pineapple. A large dice is usually a 1-inch dice. And I'm going to make 1-inch slices through the pineapple, rotate it, and then come back through and make 1-inch slices. There I have a diced pineapple, and I will continue to do the same thing with my other pieces. Now that we have finished our knife skills demonstration, I need to return my working area to a nice clean state. I'm going to do this by taking my cutting board back to the dish room, making sure that it's washed, rinsed, and sanitized. I'm also going to wash, rinse, and sanitize my cutting area. One of the most important things in using knives is the care and sanitation of the knife itself. After we're done utilizing a knife, we never want to return the knife to the dish room, or we never want to put the knife on a dirty dish rack. What we need to do is clean the knife in a sink within our area. We want to wash, rinse, and sanitize our knives, just like any other piece of equipment in the kitchen. Let me demonstrate on how we should be doing that properly and safely. When cleaning our knives, we want to use hot water, as hot as we can stand, and we also want to use soap in the first process. We'll be washing our knives. I never want to have the sharp part of the knife facing my hand. It should always be facing away. I'll start by down at the heel of the knife and move to the tip in long motions to remove any debris that they may have. Once again, I never want to start at the heel of the knife with the sharp side of the blade facing my palm and moving up. That way I may cut into my hand. Keep the sharp side away, move up and away from the heel of the knife. I also want to make sure that I get into these grooves on both sides of the knives. And I also want to clean the handle sufficiently. Once I have washed it, we'll rinse it. I want to dry my knife. Once again, keeping the sharp side of the blade away from my palm. Dry the handle. Sanitize my knife. And then return my clean and sanitized knife to its proper location. I hope you have found this video helpful and informative. And remember, if at any time working in the kitchen you have forgot some of the knife skills demonstrated here today, before trying them yourself, always ask a manager or a student supervisor to review some of those knife skills. And also remember, safety first. Thank you.